Welcome, I am Flatcap Callum and this is my Cheltenham Festival 2024 Ante-Post video. Alright, the last couple of years I've done a whole series and I've tried it like day of the week by, Tuesday video for Wednesday video, Thursday video, Friday video. I think last year I did novice races, championship races, handicap races, and I was on two different platforms at that time. This year, this is it. This is what I was going to do. No, that's it. This is it. This is the one and only Ante-Post video from me. I'll be honest, I've spent less time. Normally at this point, I've gone over it multiple times, and looked at different races and different angles and stuff. And as in keeping with what I'm trying to do on the main channel at the moment, I'm going to try and keep down the quantity. So what I'm going to talk you through on this video is my four selections at this stage of the market. So it's time of recording this video, 5th of February 2024. At the current market points, these are the best four that I can find from a value perspective. That is what I've got for you. They are in the novice and championship races, so no handicaps and none of the kind of periphery stuff. Like your hunter chases and cross country and all that sort of stuff. Declarations are made much later for those. Next week, I think it's the mare's chase race and the mare's race. The declarations are next week. So declarations are in terms of first stage for the novice division and the championship races. That is what I've got. I've had a look at the others out of interest, but there wasn't anything that was kind of springing out. So these are my four best. Now, if you are new to me and new to what I'm doing, because a few things are probably just flagged here. There are 10 a penny at the moment of videos flying around with Ante-Post tips for Cheltenham. Like, people literally have been making them every week for months. Like, it's nuts, right? So in the tipster world of like general day to day, I put out 4 videos a week, and actually there's far less people who do that than there are in the Cheltenham Festival Ante-Post world. I mean, it's bonkers, all these people that come out the woodwork to pass a view. It's great, like, don't get me wrong, like, I've got no challenge of anyone else passing off their view, and I'm not sitting here trying to tell you, I'm the best of the best or whatever. I'm just giving you what I've got, but it is amazing how many people do these videos. And the one watch out I'd give you, right, because I always like to try and give you watch outs for things, because there's plenty of people out there that don't quite know what they're doing or think they know what they're doing. And I'm not necessarily saying that I've got it down pat, right? But what I would say to you is, as it is in the day-to-day, it's about value and it's about price, right? So this isn't me going to tell you my 4 fancies for the Cheltenham Festival, the 4 horses that are most likely going to win. So I'm not going to be on a video here putting up Constitution Hill or El Fabiolo or whatever. Like, there'll be people that go out to give you that. A, I wouldn't want to bet on them right now, full stop, with the prices they are. But B, I wouldn't want to bet on them at the point of the race probably either, when you're talking about 1 to 3 shots and what have you. So it isn't about that, and this isn't also about me trying to be, there's a bit cutesy clever. Oh, I've got a 6 to 1 shot here that I think, could do something here. These are 4 firm double figure price horses, right? These are 4 horses that you will most unlikely, I would think, you will find other people chatting about on Ante-Post videos. So this is my gig, right? My world is prices and value where other people aren't necessarily looking at in the same place. I'm trying to look in caves, underground wells where no other person has gone before. Now, I can't tell you, I don't have an encyclopedic knowledge of all of the millions and millions of Ante-Post Cheltenham Festival videos out there. But what I am saying to you is, I would definitely imagine, there aren't many people going to give you the 4 I'm about to give you. Certainly one of them get laughed out the room. So that's my kind of my preamble for you. So regulars will understand there's always a bit of a preamble. And so I will give you my four best. Track record on here, so it's good to do track record. As far as YouTube is concerned, 2 years ago I did 3 Ante-Post videos, and the conclusions were all profitable if you place the bet at the point where the video was made. Really happy with that. Well, I'm very proud of that, to be fair. Last year was a struggle. I had a number of horses that were big prices come like week before the meeting, looked really good. I remember Gentleman Demi got pulled out. We had 50s into something like 9s, I think, at the point it got pulled out. I seem to remember last year Magic Days was another one. It was 40s and refused to run on the day of the race. We just had a whole bunch of bad luck with some of that Ante-Post stuff as well. So I had one good year, I had one not so good year, it would be fair to say. So they're my credentials, right? So, but equally, I'm not suggesting you go put your house on any of these, and equally, I ain't charging you for my time or my selections. These are free. All right. So when I'm looking at Ante-Post, first thing I will have a bit of a look-see at is I'm looking at races where I will look at the average field size when it actually gets to race time. And certain races I would really want to be avoiding, generally speaking, for Ante-Post. So for this kind of video where I'm putting out what I think are the 4 best across the 4 days, albeit 3 of them are on Tuesday, I'm looking, generally speaking, at races where I think the field size will be much, much smaller. Therefore, I'm not losing out so much on extra places. So if you look at something like the Albert Bartlett, historically, that has quite a high number double-figure horse running in it. And therefore, from an Ante-Post perspective, I wouldn't be looking at it. Also, you've got big prices generally get involved in the framing of that race. And again, so if you've got big prices there, I'm going to be less keen looking at Ante-Post because I might be able to find those more likely on the week of the actual meeting. So I'm looking at races where I know the field sizes are going to be much smaller than where the declarations are currently. Hopefully that makes sense. Usually a good signal to that is when you've at this stage got a real shorty, like an odds-on favourite or even money favourite. Generally, that speaking, the signal that should give you is there'll be only single-figure runners in the actual race, because a lot of people will look at moving their horses into different races, particularly in certain like novice division stuff. They'll look at putting their horses into a different race to avoid the real surefire favourite. But if they don't think they can got a chance to win, they might not run. Some trainers and owners are happy to run the horses because they're going to pick up some nice place money. So if you're in a championship race, picking up some nice place money in the Gold Cup, even if you don't think your horse is going to be a win in a Gold Cup, might be worth doing it. So broadly, the point I'm making here is Ante-Post, I'm looking at races where I think you're probably not going to get much more than standard terms, as in 3 places come race time. So therefore, I'm not losing out on loads of extra places, as I would be on something like the Albert Bartlett. Last year paid 5 places, a lot of bookies. Okay, now I've said all that, and then I'm going to go mildly rogue on the first selection. So the Supreme Novice is where I'm starting, which is not normally, to be honest, somewhere I would want to start. The history of this race is it does fluctuate with field sizes. It does depend on how short a favourite is to kind of how many other horses run scared of this race or not. But also it's an opportunity for Mullins to chuck out a bunch of horses as well. There's tend to find there's a lot of Irish horses that will go and run in that race anyway, because it's more than it is about winning it. For some of them, it's about giving them a little bit of experience of Cheltenham for future ventures. So, like a horse that might go on to be a chaser, but give them some Cheltenham experience. You got a little bit of that going on as well. So I'm not expecting this to be a small field, particularly in the Supreme Novice. But yeah, I've gone through them all, and I had one that stuck out. And I would say as well, with these horses, at this stage, and we'll get to prices and stuff later, these aren't necessarily non-runner, no-bet horses. These are horses personally I've backed in outright Ante-Post market. So they're not protected. If they don't run at Cheltenham, I lose the money. That's how I've personally backed them, because I think the differential between, for some of them certainly, between what you're losing on non-runner, no-bet is quite significant. And I'd rather take the risk and get the big price that I like. And if they don't run, they don't run, and I'll lose the money, rather than, say, take 2/3 of the price and get my money back potentially. That's just how I've decided to play it. So first selection is a Willie Mullins horse. So Willie Mullins in the Supreme Novice, I think there's something like 62, 63 entries. He's got 23 of them, and I've gone for a horse that the connections, the owners have got 5, I think, running in it. It's a horse called Another Way. I don't imagine most people will have come across Another Way. So it's running in the familiar 2 shades of green silks. And obviously this far out, 62, 63 runners, who knows whether the horse is actually going to run in the race. My read of it is it's the type of horse that he would normally run in the race. So another way, history of that horse is last time out it won a bumper at Punchestown. I think was it last? I think it might even be last week. It ran and won a Punchestown bumper, and fairly innocuous looking bumper on paper, right? So not huge prize money knocking about. Prior to that, it ran 8th, I think it was, in the Leopardstown meeting at Christmas, in a maiden in novice race. And so you're not necessarily going to look at the horse and think from a profile point of view that's any good. So its first time running in the UK was 8th, and then it won a Punchestown bumper and didn't seem to beat very much. Prior to being with Willie, it was trained over in France by the Heads. Now, it was a decent enough standard flat horse there, to be fair, before he's brought it over. When you start delving into that horse a little bit more, what you see is it's a half brother to Concierge. I can never say that horse's name. Concierge. Regulars will know. I struggle with pronunciations. Concierta, same owner, and that was another horse that came over from France. And that horse on debut for Willie was second in the mare's novice hurdle race at Cheltenham. Then went on to run and win and do really well at Cheltenham over the course of its career. So she his half sister, he's the half brother. His half sister was a very, very decent standard, and then there was other half siblings that ran to a nice standard on the flat as well. So good breeding and good pedigree. If you also look last year, there was a horse called Diverge. I think it's Diverge. I think that's how you pronounce it. Which again, most people probably not even on their radar. Now that ran last year and was 3rd in the Supreme. That was after it won the same corresponding maiden at Punchestown, after it was 6th in the same funky looking maiden at Leopardstown, after it had come over from France from the same connections. So there's a synergy there completely, right? So literally it's following this another way. If it runs in the Supreme, it will follow exactly the same route as another horse that Mullins took last year. That horse was 25-1 last year in the Supreme. It was he had 4 horses and it was the 4th string, but it was finished second of his horses in it. If you look at that same Punchestown maiden from two years ago, that was won by Kilcroot, who then has gone on to also place 3rd in a Supreme novice. So there's a bit of a synergy. The last 2 horses to win that bumper in Punchestown then went on to be 3rd in the Supreme. They had French background. So there's a lot I like in there in that. And actually, if you look at RPR, so Racing Post rating, it put it on a really high mark. It doesn't look like much of a race, and it didn't win incredibly impressively or anything like that. So it's kind of off radar, I think. But from an RPR point of view, it puts it up there as kind of one of the best 5 horses in the race in terms of performance. So yeah, I think it's well worth a little look, that one. So number 1 on the selection sheet in terms of chronological order in the Supreme on the first day is Another Way. Just check my note if I where have I got to on there? There we go. Arkle. So next, not Arkle, that horse died long ago, but the Arkle Chase, same owner, different trainer, same owner. We're going to go in the Arkle with Matata. Matata is due to run at Warwick this weekend at the time of making this video in the Kingmaker. Whether it runs or not doesn't impact my choice. It's the Kingmaker at the moment, at the time of making this video, has got 5 horses declared, and it's the 8-13 favourite. It should smash the race if it turns up at Warwick. But even though there's 5 declared, there might even be less than that actually make it to the day. But yeah, I really quite like this horse, and it's very much, in my view, overpriced. So you've got a horse that, if it runs in the Kingmaker, there has history there of horses running well in the Kingmaker and then going on to Cheltenham, so that's not an issue. If it doesn't run, I don't mind at all. It will run a little bit fresher. That in itself isn't too much of an issue. Last 2 times, Matata has come second. Last time it came second, it was just got beat by JPR1. JPR1 is about a third of the price of Matata in the betting for the Arkle. And if you actually watch the race, Matata's, some of its jumping was really sketchy at times. So clearly that's not great, because I'm putting up a sketchy jumper. What I'm hoping is the jumping improves. So it's trained by Nigel Twistle-Davies. He knows what he's doing with chasers. So if the jumping can improve, that would improve. Half a length between that and JPR1 and it's triple the price. If you solely look at that, then that's a good bit of form and from a value perspective. Then you look a bit further. It was second in a novice handicap chase at Cheltenham, so it's got Cheltenham experience, ran well. It was basically a stone almost heavier than the horse that it beat it. So it ran quite an impressive race for the weight it was carrying in that race. So it's got Cheltenham experience. It's also ground versatile, which is really, really helpful. So you've got a ground versatile horse that's run well at Cheltenham, that hopefully can improve its jumping a little bit as well. But actually, it's from a ratings point of view, then you can make some comparisons in there. There's about half a dozen horses that have run a race on that same sort of distance that are there or thereabouts, there or about £4 or £5 higher than that. There's nothing standout special in any one of those horses' performances if you actually look at the ratings. It's a bit of a muddly market. So from a value perspective, I would say there's considerable value in the price, and we'll get to the price at the end of the video. So Matata in the Arkle is number 2. Number 3, this might sound like a roguey. I'm going Champion Hurdle, and I'm going to do a similar thing to what I talked about last year on this. So the Champion Hurdle, Constitution Hill, State Man, look absolutely nailed on to be the first 2 horses home if they're fit and well and they stay on their feet. They look like the first 2 home. There is definitely a bet to be had for horse coming third in the Champion Hurdle. Last year we got less than 8 runners, and I was looking at that kind of market. This year I fully expect again to get less than 8 runners, because if you think in the front 2 are taking up most of the market, a lot of people in me think, well, do I want to play for third place? A horse that I absolutely know will be played for third place, despite the fact it is 12, is Not So Sleepy, with a good, decent price available at the moment in places. So come race day, if that's down to a 5-6 runner race, even 7 runners, and you're not going to be able to get third place market on the day, but you can get third place market Ante-Post right now. So this is the time to play it. Don't leave this till race day. Now the price might get bigger on race day. So if Not So Sleepy runs, the moment the bookies need to protect themselves from a place point of view for third place. On the actual race day, if you've only got 6 horses and they're only paying first 2, you can get any price you want on basis horses 3, 4, 5 and 6 in theory, because they're going to be worried much more about the front 2. So it could even be that the price gets bigger if you get to like 6 runners. But right now, getting third place on it, in basically a series of I'm putting 4 on here, and I'm saying I've got 4 horses. I'm personally, I've bet them all each way, but I know some people will want to take this and convert it into a lucky 15 or a Yankee. So Not So Sleepy, I think, is well worth in there. It's come 5th place in the last 3 Champion Hurdles. They've run it in the Champion Hurdle. They're happy to run it to take it to 5th place. Now, there's a couple of those years it's run in 5th place. It's got beaten by some okayish types of horses. And there isn't really many of them knocking about. If you take out State Man and Constitution Hill, Bob Ollinger's third favourite, I'm not even sure it will run, because it looks like if it does run, it's potentially as the 3rd horse. But if it doesn't run and they want to fancy that to go and try something else and take it away from Cheltenham, they might do. And then you're looking at the rest of the field and you're thinking, well, you can rule out a bunch of them going off to either handicaps or mares races and whatever. And then you're kind of left down and you kind of think, Not So Sleep is one of the only solids that you know is actually going to turn up and run its race. So taking 3rd place now, I think, is worth doing. That's horse number 3. So that's all on Tuesday. The 4th and final horse is on the Thursday. And I'm going to go to the Turner's Novice Chase. So a lot of people looking at that race on Thursday, and kind of between Ginny's Destiny and Fact and File, they look like the best 2, right? They on paper they're the best 2, and they're at the top of the market. But I would absolutely want to have a little bit right now on Nickelback. It was incredibly impressive in the Scilly Isles, going from the front. And if you look at the history of the Turner's Novice Chase, front runners do very well. Last year, Stage Star won from the front. The year before was when the year Gallopin Deschamps fell at the last. The year before that, I think it was Fusel Raffles. I think it was Fusel Raffles that was second. The front runners do well in the Turners. Now, the only slight niggle with this one, in for that specific point, is there's quite a few front runners in the Turners. So Ginny's Destiny looks like it might be up there vying for place, vying for that lead. So there is a watch out in terms of actually from a pace angle, whether 2 horses take themselves on a little bit too much and get burnt up. But front runners do well. That's history. And if you go back further than the 3 races I've said, you'll see it plays through. The front runner usually does pretty good. So that's a nice thing. If you actually look again from a ratings point of view, Ginny's Destiny and Factifile are the best 2, and the 3rd best horse in there on paper is Nickelback. It's a really small yard, and they did brilliantly well to win the Silly Isles. They haven't made any sort of firm plans about what they're going to do next. If I was them, this is a shot to have a horse running in a prestigious Grade 1 at Cheltenham. Those don't come around very often for the connections, for the trainer, for the owner. I'd absolutely give it a go in that race, because it's what I know. Again, another one of those ones where I don't know exactly how small the field might go, but there's quite a few in there that you think might end up going to different races. And by the time the market shortens out, to me, Nickelback should be the 3rd favourite horse right now, given what it's done at Sandown, and it's not. So you can get a decent double figure price on it right now. So that is my 4. Was there anything I was going to say? Anything? No, that was what I was going to say. Just so I wrote myself a little note there. That's my 4, right? So verdict time. Here we go. So Supreme Novice, another way, 40 to 1 is the best price, which is an absolute dreamy price you can get in Corals and Ladbrokes. It's broadly 25s elsewhere. So Coral and Ladbrokes absolutely stand out. I don't say that very often, but another way, 40 to 1 with Corals or Ladbrokes, that is a great price. Matata, best price 33, is quite a few bookies giving this. Corals, Ladbrokes, 365, Sky, Betfred, so you can shop around to try and get 33s on Matata. The Champion Hurdle, 33s. A lot of bookies are trying to protect themselves, and it's getting shorter and shorter, but you can get Betfair and Betfred 33 to 1 on Not So Sleepy. Tends to be about 25s in other places. And then Nickelback, 20s, the outstanding price, standout price. Betfair at 20s. 16s is very gettable in most other places. That is my 4. That is that kind of, it's a bit, like when you get the King's Speech or the Queen's Speech, as it was on Christmas Day, and there's an alternative. This is it. There's about 1 million Queen's Speeches out there on YouTube right now. This is the alternative King's Speech with these 4 juicy prices. I'm putting out to you. They may not even. We might not even get any turn up. I'd be genuine. I'd be pretty happy if 2 or 3 of these actually run in the race to start with. So that's it. Not So Sleepy is the only one that really looks likely to run. The other 3 are definitely going to have a question mark about them. So yeah, 2. If we get 3 running, I'll be happy with that. And from if you backed all of these, if you're getting one of these placed, then in theory that should be good enough to get your cash back. Certainly if you manage to get the 20s on that, so what's that? That'll be 5th of the odds, so you get back. Yeah, so no, that wouldn't be. So, wouldn't be quite. So we need more than Nickelback to place. So if any of the other 3 place, should be just about there, because you'll get back almost break even almost for those, and you'll get a touch for them. So one of them placing, I'll be happy enough with it at those prices. But we're really wanting 2 places. If you get 2 places, everyone will be very, very happy. If miraculously we can pull out some sort of massive price winner, not going to be Not So Sleepy, but of the other 3, then delightful. So that is it. Take it, leave it, shove it in a drawer, do nothing with it, feed it into your own thoughts and selections. But at the time of making this video on the 5th of February, that's the best 4 I could find from a value perspective, as opposed to who's going to win at 3 to 1, 4 to 1. You get the gig. All right. Have a good Cheltenham Festival whenever you get there. And that's it for me from Cheltenham Festival Ante-Post. If you want to join me on my regular videos, you can do. Otherwise, I'll be back on here at Cheltenham Festival time as well. And we'll see if any of these 4 get there. Oh, one other thought while I remember, but it was in my head. I did put up one other Cheltenham Festival horse, which I wouldn't back right now at prices, but at the moment it's shorter. So the only other one I've put up in dispatches this season is in the Mare's Chase race, Ante-Post, put up at 33s. Currently best price 20s, 16s, sort of widely available. Probably wouldn't want to back it at that 16s and 20 price. 33s, I'm happy with where that bet sits right now. 60 and 20s, I'd much rather wait till get the declarations and entries the week after this video is made. before you'd have a look at that one. So wanted to flag that. It's the only other one, unless, correct me if I'm wrong, if I've said something else and I've forgotten about it, but Harmonia Maker in the Mare's Chase is the only other horse I've said 33s was a good price. Wouldn't currently back it as 16s, 20s. I would wait and see next week and see where it's at and see how many horses are entered. All right, thank you very much. That is me. Cheerio.